So I think a lot of us can agree that Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl weren't exactly the Gen 4 remakes we were all waiting for. And now as a result, a lot of us are feeling a little uneasy and nervous about what Gen 5 remakes could look like. Now, I personally don't want it to be anywhere close to what Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl was. I think that was a real big misstep in what the fans really wanted. If you look at the previous remakes, Fire Red, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, those remakes, they improved on the graphics quite a lot and they added new content to it. They brought in a lot of Pokemon from that current generation. Whereas Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, they just went ahead and took the base game and just updated the graphics to like this chibi style, and they didn't try to match it with the level of graphics that the other games during this generation were like. So if you look at Sword and Shield, it's kind of like a semi-open world, mostly linear game. But no, they decided to make it super faithful to the point where it was just not interesting at all. But now we're in a weird spot. Pokemon Company recently announced that the next game is going to be a Legends game, but it's going to take place in Kalos. So that's, Gen 6. So the question on everyone's minds is, where's Gen 5? Is that going to get a remake at some point? And what is that going to look like? Now, my history with Pokemon Black and White was that it came out during a time where I was actually kind of falling off of Pokemon a bit in the middle of college. I played through Pokemon White, I believe, and it was fun, but honestly, I never replayed it. I never really looked back at it, and it was kind of forgettable for me. But after time has passed, I've actually been, craving to go back to that game specifically, because I feel like that's the one that I have least amount of memories with, and the one that I really would like to have a second playthrough of. Not even counting Black 2 and White 2. I've never played those games really. So I'm really curious to see if they do make a remake of Pokemon Black and White and what that could look like. And I personally think the way to go is to make it an HD 2D remake. And this is kind of going back to my video that I made not that long ago, whether or not mainline Pokemon should go back to being 2D. I'll leave a time card at the top right if you want to go watch that video. But I think this is a good opportunity for the game to go HD 2D, just like Octopath Traveler. That's one of my favorite RPGs of all time as well. And you're going to hear me talk about it quite a lot if you watch my videos. The original graphics for Pokemon Black and White were, a mix of 2D and 3D. You had these 3D backgrounds with 2D sprites. The battles themselves were very beautifully animated Pokemon sprites in this kind of 3D environment, sort of. I think they can improve on that so much at this point with, the graphical power that the Switch has, or if this game ever does come out, maybe it'll come out for the next console. But there's so much potential here, and I almost kind of envision it this way. Just imagine Octopath Traveler, except you have your little Pokemon trainer running around. Everything else more or less is going to look the same. But when you get into a battle, I would like for the 2D sprites to remain the same, except I would love for them to really, really go in on the detail of these sprites and just make them super smooth, super animated. I think it would look so good, and have the backgrounds actually be like some sort of 3D battlefield. Not so much of this in-between 3D map with like some textures around it. Like, they can go all out. I really feel like this game would lend itself so well to this kind of style, and I think a lot of people would like it. There might be some people who are gonna go against it, that don't want Pokemon to go back to 2D. But I think that with these remakes, if Pokemon Company doesn't want to be as ambitious with their remakes as they are with their, mainline newer games, I think this would be a cool in-between for them to do. Now, in terms of the story, I feel like that more or less can stay the same. I don't think there's too much really to add there. I know a big hope is that maybe they would do Black and White 3 if they did some sort of remakes. And that would be cool, but something tells me that they're gonna probably just remake the original games. I feel like that's fine. You know, maybe they can add a little bit of story into the post game, maybe something that would kind of connect to the sequel games. Not saying that the sequel games are ever gonna get a remake, but still, I think it would be cool for them to actually add that in. And bring in like Gen 6 to Gen 9 Pokemon into this remake. You know, the older remakes all did that. You know, Fire Red and Leaf Green, they had Pokemon from Gen 3 show up, and Gen 2 as well. I think it was like some sort of islands that you can visit after you beat the main game. In Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, same thing. I believe after you beat the Elite Four, you get to see Gen 4 Pokemon show up. And same thing for Omega Ruby Apple Sapphire. You know, they had obviously Mega Evolutions implemented into that, and that was the Gen 6 mechanic. There were some Pokemon, I think, I'm actually not sure with my memory at this point, but I believe there were Gen 6 Pokemon in the post game. So they should definitely do that here, because, I mean, I didn't play Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, but I'm 99% sure that it was just the Pokedex that you had in the original Diamond and Pearl games. Like, there were no Gen 8 Pokemon anywhere to be found there. So that was a big step back in my opinion. So bringing Gen 6 to 9 Pokemon into the post game in some way, shape, or form could add so much more value to these remakes and not make them feel like they're literally just a copy and paste job the same way that Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl felt like. Another thing that they need to bring back, and this is vital for the success of this game, is to bring back the following Pokemon mechanic that was introduced in Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. It doesn't work well in Scarlet and Violet. I know it's there, but it doesn't feel good. It doesn't vibe well with me. With Scarlet and Violet, I feel like they tried to make it a little more realistic. So like if you have a Pokemon that's naturally slow, they will lag behind and they're gonna, you know, fall behind too far to the point where they have to return back to your Pokeball, and then they respawn, and then you keep running, and then they trail back again, and it just repeats. So don't love that. Versus when you have Pokemon that are really fast, they're in front of you running, so you're kind of chasing them at this point, which I don't really love that either. You know, keep it simple. Just have them follow you no matter what size they are. You know, just even if they're typically slower, just have them follow you at normal speed. I think that'll be really cool. I really miss that mechanic in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and it never quite hit the same way. You can tell that they're trying to bring it back, and I appreciate, you know, that effort that they're putting in, but it doesn't feel the same, and it nowhere near the same actually. To summarize, just improve the sprite quality of the game in regards to the Pokemon themselves, the characters. Make the backgrounds even more detailed in 3D, like, again, something you would see in Octopath Traveler or Triangle Strategy. Implement the Pokemon that came out after Black and White, so Gen 6 through 9, bring those Pokemon into the post game, find a way to incorporate them, really make the world feel fully fleshed out. Because from what I remember, the story was spot on. You don't really need to touch that. You just need to fine tune it a little bit at this point. And I guess in regards to the battles, I guess you can really try to flare it up a bit. Make it really pop, since the effects on the DS weren't that great, and I'm sure they can make things look a lot prettier now, basically. But those are my thoughts about this. What do you guys want from a Pokemon Black and White remake? Do you want something that is as big and grand and expansive as Scarlet and Violet? Or do you want them to kind of take a step back and make it a little bit more faithful, but not as faithful as what they tried to do with Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes? So let me know in the comments down below what you would want in a Pokemon Black and White remake. I appreciate all of you who watched up until the end of the video, and I'll talk to you guys next time. See ya.